All right, live from Charlotte. This is a beautiful backdrop, by the way. And this is also not my equipment. My guy, Jesse Coger with Plant the Spear, who's been on the show with Sam.
Yep.
See, we're doing the thing. This is our second take. I'm pretending that we didn't just discover this, but I do know for a fact that you were on 2 years ago previewing Florida State. So we're here. We're just going to talk a little bit about what we've seen so far. And then for you Florida State fans and Virginia Tech fans, we're going to inquire a little bit on Florida State. You're going to inquire a little bit on Virginia Tech. We do play Florida State. When is that game? On 11/15.
Yeah, late in the season. Last home game for Florida State.
So speaking of home games for Florida State, I want to ask you, because I saw a tweet about it the other day, that you all took down the total number of people that can be in your stadium. Can you just walk me through what's happened? I feel like every couple of years y'all are doing something new with your stadium.
Yeah, sometimes it's you just leave it alone, but to be honest, yes, it was reduced. We were looking somewhere in the ballpark of around 12,000 fans, which, it didn't go over well with the fan base. A lot of people don't love that, but the truth of the matter is the stadium needed renovations, right? The underbelly of the stadium was just kind of in poor condition. They also had to do some things with ADA compliance, widening the seats, but it's just going to be such a better fan experience. What they're doing is they've redone all the concourses, the bathrooms, the concessions. You got premium options now like box seats and stuff. So it's going to be a lot better fan experience. And you also have where they want to make it more of a mixed-use facility. Like with Lane Stadium hosting Metallica. That was a huge event for them. Well, we just sit dormant for 8 months out of the year. So they want to try and bring some more revenue out of that. And, of course, like I said, everybody's a little upset about being around 67 and change is where they're at. But I always point to Lane Stadium. I'm like, Lane Stadium, loudest stadium in America, as you guys say. And I think that looking at that, if you pack it out, you sell it out, there will still be plenty of noise.
So what is the number now? What was the number before? And that is the final number. There's not construction going on with stuff coming
we
up.
were somewhere around 79,000, 79 and change. Sometimes for a sellout, they'll get over capacity. So I still think we can probably hit 70,000 or so if they cram them in there. The final number is 67 and change.
Okay.
And that is pretty much it. Now, I don't know that they left room to possibly expand anymore, but given the layout of the stadium, I don't really think that's possible. When Florida State is good, and, maybe this isn't the kindest thing to say about our fan base sometimes, when Florida State's good, they sell out games.
Sure.
But there are times when it doesn't sell out. So I think having a consistent sell-out-able, I guess that's a word, stadium, is probably going to be fine for us.
Well, let's be honest. There's a lot to do in Florida. And if the team is not good, they're going to go find something else to do.
And, HD TVs and stuff nowadays are a lot more affordable. And so you got to give that extra experience, that premium experience, you got to give reason for people to come out of their house to watch the game, especially when you're talking about sitting in 100-degree heat in Florida.
100%. Well, I was sitting in 100-degree heat 2 years ago, and it was it was tough. So we'll start with Florida State.
Okay.
And I want to preface all of my comments. There are no backhanded jabs. We're just talking about last year because I know last year was challenging. Picked to win the ACC last year. Finished 17th, 2-10. What was just the lowest point of last season?
Yeah, there's no way to avoid the elephant in the room. It's one of the most epic collapses you've seen in college football history. To go from 13 wins to 2, granted the snub happened, there were some misevaluations in the transfer portal, things like that, but there's no excuse for a program like Florida State to win 2 games in a season. But I think the low point last year, you kind of had 2, right? I think when you lost to Memphis, that put you at 0-3, and you kind of knew, man, we're in trouble. This is bad. For me, I think the low point was the Notre Dame game. 52-3, you weren't even competitive. You were never in that game. Now, I know Notre Dame is, they played for national championship, but to just be non-competitive.
Right.
And then you started to see some quit. And now they won the next game, Charleston Southern, against a bad FCS team, but that for me was probably the low point when you knew this team has pretty much given up.
Well, and this transitions into going into next year, but what's really interesting to me, did you have any worries going into the season with, I don't mean this to be disrespectfully, but DJU, who has limitations as a quarterback, and it begs the question, you're going into a year where you really got to show some progress. Obviously better than 2-10, but you're looking to be back to competitive and back to competing for national relevancy. And Tommy Castellanos, who I like but has limitations, was there a fear with DJU of having some limitations last year going into the season?
Oh, 100%. And, we tried to sell ourselves on, okay, well, he did this at Clemson, and he was okay at Oregon State. But as much as there was trepidation with DJU, I think it was, one, we really didn't get the DJU we thought, right? DJU was always that big 6'5", 250 mobile guy who could kind of run, a bruiser type of guy, maybe almost like a Cam Newton type of runner, right? Not big and fast, but strong and powerful. I don't know if he was injured because he wore a leg sleeve a lot last year. Was immobile, completely immobile, which changed the offense because we also had an awful offensive line, just terrible offensive line. And then we had the highest drop percentage in the country. So even if DJU had been effective, everything around him collapsed too. And so, we thought we were going to get a version of DJU. We got a bad version of DJU, and then everything around him just kind of fell apart as well.
So talking about, there were two coaches last year who I think unfairly, where I was 100%, you cannot fire Ryan Day, and you 100% can't fire Coach Norvell. Yeah. I was in the camp where if Coach Norvell didn't win a game, I don't think you can fire Coach Norvell after the season he had previously. For the fan base, where was that, and where is it today?
So I do think the hot topic, right, is everybody was like, maybe they were premature on the extension and paying him that kind of money, the $10 million a year. But at that time, you're coming off a 13-win season. You just won the first conference championship you've had in 10 years. Whether you believe it or not, Alabama was realistically coming calling, so you did what was right in the moment.
Right.
Now, no one ever saw that happening, but between the way the snub happened and then you had a lot, the Orange Bowl kind of happened too. Gosh, I wish we'd have just not played the game. There's a big portion of the fan base, to call it like it is, he's had 3 losing seasons in 5 years. So really, we haven't even had like a middle-of-the-road season, a 7-8 win season.
Boom or bust.
We don't know who we joke like Slim Shady, will the real Coach Norvell please stand up? Who is this guy? And so we're really waiting to see. Now, there's a portion of the fan base that just doesn't believe in him, right? They want him gone yesterday. Mm-hmm. There's a portion of us that still say, look, guys, he took over a bad situation. He got us to 10 wins. He got us to 13 wins in the conference championship. They went 23-4 and 22-23. But you got to get back there, right? You basically have to act like 2024 never happened. Now, I don't expect you to go out and win a conference championship or national championship this year, but I think you get about an 8-win runway this year, but then that's not good enough going forward.
Can I ask you what you think about Tom Castellanos' comments? Now, I didn't ask you to give you my answer, but I'm going to give you my answer. At first, when I saw the comment about Alabama, I was like, all right, man, like, best of luck with that.
Yeah.
But when you get around him and you get around Coach Norvell was basically like a Baptist preacher at Media Day today. He got up there and he was about half a step below screaming into the microphone. And you look at a Tommy Castellanos, and Tommy is an underdog type guy.
Yep.
He has been his entire career. Florida State is not really an underdog, but they're underdogs this year, and the fact that everybody's kind of throwing dirt on their name. I kind of like the mojo of Tommy Castellanos getting out there and just being that guy. And if he's the guy that's going to take a bunch of arrows in the preseason, ultimately they'll have to win to prove everybody right or wrong. But I don't have a problem with him bringing mojo and bringing some of that spunk.
No, I don't hate it. I kind of maybe don't say that about Alabama, right? Maybe you say that against.
It's no fun if you say it about
East Texas A&M game too. Maybe, but maybe you don't kick the beehive. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we've talked about it. I like the confidence, right? Yep. This is a guy who his dream school was Florida State coming out of high school, but they didn't want him as a quarterback, and so he's kind of had to earn his right to be here. And he's talked about that clip, that viral clip, obviously, and he said, "Look, I don't mean disrespect to Alabama." But I'm trying to instill confidence in my guys because you got a team that went, some of the team, a lot of the teams knew, but a lot of those guys went 2-10 last year. So you want a quarterback who's confident. You don't want, like last year, one of the biggest things with DJU, on the field aside, he was just kind of there.
Right.
He just existed. We didn't see leadership from that side. So Tommy's been really good about unifying the team, leading this team in the offseason. And so you said it exactly. If you go out there and lose by 30 points against Alabama, you're going to look dumb.
Right.
You didn't back it up. But if you go out there and you play your best game and maybe you don't win, but you look respectable, well, then I don't hate it.
And if you win, you're a legend.
If you win, you called your shot.
Exactly.
You called your shot.
So leaving ACC Media Day, we saw at Florida State kicked it off today. I keep saying ACC Media Day. It's Media Kickoff.
Yeah.
It's Media Days. Anything that you learned, I know it's tough to come away with something tangible, but of everybody that spoke, I do think that look, Coach Key and Coach Norvell stole the show today and probably would have stolen the show yesterday with just their personalities and their spunk. But what did you leave with today?
Yeah, it's Southern Baptist Mike came out, so I like that he's re-energized about this season. I like that he's willing to put last year behind him and let's move on. I think Brent Key is, he's building something at Georgia Tech.
Sure.
He is. That was a home run hire, if I ever won. Shout out to my guy, Rhett Lashley, who came out swinging yesterday.
Man.
Probably my favorite guy because, as a Florida State fan, we are already anti-committee as it is. And so when he came out and just dunked all over them, I was like, yes, this is my guy.
He was like JV Signetti yesterday.
Oh, man.
Signetti, obviously, you knew what you were going to get from there. But Lashley, he really came out and laid the hammer down.
He came out. And really just hearing from the teams, obviously we got a lot more tomorrow.
Yep.
Virginia's a team that I think is going to be one to watch this year.
Mm-hmm.
They talked a lot about the resources that have been dumped into that program. They're deeper than they've ever been. I think this year it's talking season. Obviously, you got to go out and do it on the field. There's a lot of hot seat this year, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of guys that got to go out and do it. And I think Tony Elliott, if you look at the resources that are being dumped into that program, that means you got to go produce, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one of the takeaways that I had. I'm interested in tomorrow to see Clemson and, of course, NC State, and then the show that is Bill Belichick that's coming. I don't know if his girlfriend's Jordan's going to be here or not. I don't know if she's going to be sitting at the podium with him, but man, it's always fun. This gets you amped up for the season.
Sure.
We're 30 days away from football, and so I'm excited about it, man.
So again, Virginia Tech, Florida State, November 15th. Y'all's over under is 7.5. Virginia Tech's is at 6.5.
Yeah.
Do you have any, as you look at your schedule, thoughts? I'll give you what I'm thinking about Virginia Tech, and then we can shift over to Tech if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Number one, Tech has to go 3-1 in September.
Yeah.
If you come out of September 2-2, and then you're starting with South Carolina, then you play Vanderbilt at home at night, and then you got Old Dominion, you got Wofford.
Yeah.
If you're 0-2, your fan base is going to be in a not fantastic mindset,
right?
Which you can't have. So that's how I feel about September. And then November, it might be the toughest month of recent memory. In the month of November, we play Louisville. You got a bye week. At Florida State, Miami at home, and then Virginia on the road.
That's
so
tough.
It's a tough November. But and I have it right here if you need it for Florida State's schedule. But any observations or any thoughts kind of on the schedule?
I think when you talk about Tech, too, and this is similar for Florida State, what you do early in the season adds pressure to the end of the season.
For sure.
When you come out against Alabama, we're going to win the next two games. If not, we're going to cancel the season, fire everybody. We're done. It's East Texas A&M and Kent State.
Yes.
They were 0-12 last year. So if you lose to Alabama, you can't get blown out. You got to at least be competitive, even if you don't win. And then you get the 2 wins, but the thing is that's not going to move the needle for anybody. So then I think you go into Virginia, depending on what happens with Alabama. Virginia's a can't-lose game.
Yep.
Because you got Miami on the backside of that. If you come out of Miami and you're 2-3, you're staring down the barrel of getting fired at this point, I think. So the month of September is really going to set you up big for what you do the rest of the season. And, we still got to go to Clemson. You still got to go to Florida. You still got to NC State. And so you got a lot of tough games on the schedule. And so for me, there's little margin for error, right? You got the big 4 as we look at it. Clemson, Miami, Alabama, and Florida. Those are the big 4. Maybe you get 1 or 2 upsets there, but the rest of the season, man, there's so much slim room for error because you start losing games you shouldn't, and then you pile on those other ones. That's when things can go off the rails.
So I asked you to prepare some hot takes for the ACC this year. I got my 2. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Mine are probably a little more mild, so I'll give you mine first. I think, and it hurts me to say this, but I think Clemson's going to play for a national championship.
I completely agree with you.
I really do. And I've heard a lot about Clemson. They sound like they're loaded, but I really think it comes down to Kate Klubnik, right? I really do. I mean, he's probably the best, most experienced quarterback in the country right now of the national title contender teams. And they talk about how Dabo just has a magic wand to get people to come back. And it's amazing how he does it, and props to him for that. So I think they're going to play. I don't know that they'll win it. You got Texas out there and things like that, but I think they're going to play for a national championship. And then my hot take number 2 is, depending on how things go, I think we could see as many as 6 new coaches in the ACC next year.
So that was going to be one of my hot takes, is I think that the ACC of all of the conferences will be replacing the most coaches in 2026. And if you go down and you run down the list, you look at does Bill O'Brien want to be at Boston College and coach in college right now? Then you think about Bill Belichick, what he's going to do.
Yep.
And then you look at some of those hot seat situations. I mean, and again, Fran Brown. Like, he can say as many times as he wants that he wants to be at Syracuse for life. Like, we listened to him talk today. Super impressive and relates with the kids very, very, very well. I think he has an extremely bright future. And if he wants to do it at Syracuse, great. But I would be pretty surprised.
That's a hard
if
place
he's
to
at
recruit
Syracuse
too, though.
for a long time. But then you go down the list. Manny Diaz, how long does he want to be at Duke?
Exactly.
And then
Stanford's a given.
Stanford.
And, this may go with you guys, too. And I think Mike Norvell's on the hot seat. Mm-hmm. You go anything less than 7-5, I think you're getting fired.
Well, you look at just talking hot seat in general, as I read down the list, you got NC State, you got Pittsburgh, Stanford is moving on from their coach, Virginia Tech. Wake Forest isn't going anywhere.
I think Cal could be one to watch. I was looking it up, Justin Wilcox earlier. You bring Ron Rivera in, so you got a new guy who maybe want to put a stamp on the program. Mm-hmm. You've had, I think, 2 winning seasons in his 8 years so far.
Yep.
I think there you kind of decide which direction you want to go. They've had some players leave.
Yep.
And he did talk a little bit about maybe this isn't for everybody with the NIL structure. Mm-hmm. Is he the next coach to kind of pull that Jeff Hafley move? Like, maybe this just isn't for me anymore, moves on somewhere. So, I mean, some of the ones you mentioned, you could be looking at 6 to maybe 8.
Yep.
Half the conference could have new coaches next year.
And it won't all be firings either. Again, you have coaches who we expect to walk away and one who's already said they're going to.
Yeah.
So it's going to be over 1. My other hot take, I think Carolina's going to finish top 5 in the ACC. That may not be a hot take for a lot of people, but I think so many folks are getting, I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I think they're wrong. So many people are getting caught up in the Bill Belichick, having all this other stuff surrounding him. At the end of the day, he is a football coach, and I trust his ability to out-coach probably anybody in the college game. And if it comes down to his talent level is close enough to the different schools that he's playing against, I don't see why he can't be successful. But all of that aside, their schedule's a joke.
That's
it is a complete joke.
Yep.
The one difficult game that they play, and the one, I believe it's the only top 5 predicted finisher for the ACC title, is Clemson, and they got them in the middle of the season on 10-4, and it's bookended by bye weeks. Their schedule in totality: TCU, not a conference game; Charlotte, not a conference game; Richmond, not a conference game; and then Central Florida, not a conference game.
Yeah.
You go bye, Clemson bye, Cal, who's going to be awful, Virginia, who's not going to be very good, Syracuse, who I like Fran Brown, they're replacing a ton.
Yep.
Stanford, probably not going to be very good. Wake Forest, first-year head coach. Duke, who knows? NC State, who knows? It is. You can do this with a lot of teams in the ACC and say, man, that's an easy schedule. This is maybe the easiest schedule I've ever seen. Yes,
it's a Charmin soft schedule, and really, I don't know if the ACC did them some favors to kind of help them out year one. But that was the thing that we were talking about with my co-host earlier. We were like, man, I just North Carolina's schedule. You can fall backwards into 8 wins on that schedule.
It's going to be hard to get them on national television with how easy.
I know, and it's kind of crazy. They play at UNC Charlotte.
They play at UNC Charlotte, which is going to be really interesting. I got to tell you, I
don't love it.
If we didn't play Vanderbilt, if we were playing a cupcake that week, I might have just gone for the spectacle of seeing Bill Belichick play in Charlotte. But that is what I've got for you, just kind of on Florida State. I appreciate you giving us the scoop.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that.